Hello to everyone. I invite you to the next NGRN Discussion Club. Today, we will discuss the main topics and main developments of the last week. And the main point is that we crossed the mark of 100 days. So this is a great opportunity to sum up the preliminary results of Kremlin's campaign since the beginning of the large-scale invasion. And especially the focus, I think, we should make on a second phase of the war. And also, I think that we shall make an attempt to predict further developments, how their developments on battlefield will go on during the next months. So to start with, let's follow the hands of the clock over the map, over the battlefields in Ukraine. And let's start from Kharkiv region. During the last week, there were no major offenses around Kharkiv, nor from Ukrainian side, nor from Russians. Until now, Russians have opportunity to shell Kharkiv with MLRS systems, but from my perspective, Ukrainian forces have achieved results in defending Kharkiv, and there is no point to burn additional amounts of tanks and armored vehicles in attempts to move closer to the state border with Russia, because it will lead to just big losses. And even if Ukrainian forces will reach a state border, Russia will be still capable to shell Kharkiv with MLRS systems. Then let's move to their Izum axis. There were no major shifts on this part of the front. At the same time, we achieved many messages about the reinforcements there by Russian forces. But what is the main goal of Russia near Izum is to cut down the road between Borodinkovo and Sloviansk, which is strategic passage for Ukraine. But it is the second month of Russian attempts to cut this road, but still now they are unsuccessful. And we may just say that Russia cannot maintain efforts to make an offensive operations at the same time. So when Russia attacks, for example, in Severodonetsk, they made no attempts and no advances occur near Izum. A dangerous situation near Svetogirsk, because Russians are moving slowly to the river of Seversky Donetsk, and their main advance was near Liman, the town of Liman. So as for today, they control all the area around this city, and made some attempts to get a foothold on a western bank of the Seversky Donetsk River. But these attempts were unsuccessful. And I'd like to mention that several weeks ago in our previous NGRN Discussion Clubs, we predicted such development. I mean that for Ukrainian forces, it is more convenient to defend Ukrainian territories from the west bank of the Seversky Donetsk River, because in such case we may use highlands on the west border of the river, and use the landscape to sustain, to prevent Russian advance. And the more harsh clashes occurred in Severodonetsk area. Russians control parts of the city. It is quite clear that Ukrainians still keep the facilities near the Seversky Donetsk River, the big factory, and this may become another Azovstal for Russians, so that will, and operations and attempts to size it will cost big losses for Russian forces. And what is worth noting that frontal attacks against Severodonetsk means that they're felt to encircle Ukrainian forces in Severodonetsk and Lysychansk agglomeration, This attempt was mainly made through their advance near Popasna, but Ukraine still control their roads from Lysychansk and Severodonetsk to Sloviansk, and the Ukrainian command is capable to operate there and to move additional forces to prevent Russian advances. So I think that for some time the clashes on the streets of Severodonetsk will continue. We may not predict, will Ukrainian forces withdraw from Severodonetsk to avoid encirclement or not, but at the same time, we should mention that bridges through the river are blown up, and that means that for Ukrainian side it is quite comprehensive to move additional armed forces, armored vehicles and tanks there, because they may be burned in street clashes with Russians, and without such supplies, without support of armored vehicles, it is quite unpredictable situation there. And I think that in several weeks, Ukraine will concentrate on defending Lysychansk, which is located on a highland, and it's more convenient to sustain there. Another pivotal area for Russians is their operations around Popasna, and since the last week, when Russians maintained fire control over the road from Lysychansk to Bakhmut, they didn't achieve any success there, but still Ukraine cannot use this road to evacuate civilians. To sum up operations in Donbass, I'd like to highlight that Kremlin is likely setting conditions to announce some part of victory in eastern Ukraine, while it is preparing for protracted war. I mean that Russian forces are quite exhausted in street battles, so in forthcoming future, in near weeks, we shall see concentrated attempts to advance in Lugansk Oblast, but still Russians do not have enough power to achieve their goals in Donetsk regions. And it is quite obviously that Moscow cannot announce any main victory without control of the whole territory of Lugansk and Donetsk region. But still, we see that they cannot advance there anymore, and Russians have to take operational pause, which will last for months or maybe two. And this time may be used by Ukrainians to concentrate Western weaponry and make advances themselves. So their future developments are quite misty and unpredictable. On other parts of the front, there were no major achievements, but it is also worth noting that Ukrainians made a successful attempt to gain a foothold on the eastern bank of the Ingulets River in Kherson Oblast, but still this achievement is not so strategic ones, and maybe this foothold will be used in further advances after we will receive complicated Western weaponry. So, colleagues, let's predict some major developments during the next upcoming phase of war.
Thank you, Volodymyr, for very comprehensive insight on the situation on the front. I would like to mention both military and political outcomes. So as for military, I would like to outline two of them. So the first one is that we stopped the Russian aggression from the north, from the south, from the east, and the rest of the world could witness that the potential of the Ukrainian armed forces are much more stronger than everyone expected. The second conclusion is that we destroyed, ruined the myth about the Russian army. everyone considered the Russian army is undefeated. In fact, we've seen a lot of problems of Russian army in different spheres, in equipment, in command, on different levels, and from strategic tactical levels. So in general, in strategic plan, I would say that Ukraine has won, but it doesn't mean that Russia is defeated. So there's a lot of work that we have to do on the ground and to make this victory, strategic victory, more closer and more let's say practical. And as for not predictions, but some thoughts about the future, the developments on the front line, the nearest future. I think that on the current stage, the Russian elite, political elite, Russian command doesn't really believe that it will be able to realize its initial plans, I mean, the capturing all Ukraine, including Kyiv. I think that the maximum program for them is to occupy the all Donetsk and Lugansk regions and to continue destroying the economical potential of Ukraine by shelling its in critical infrastructure and provoking the crisis with the food crisis, and at the same time trying to freeze the situation on the front line with maintaining that areas that they have already captured and blackmailing the West by different means, including with the gas supplies, so with this, I mentioned the food crisis. So that it will make, in order to make pressure on Kyiv to start the peace negotiations with Russia on conditions that Russia suggested. And now we can see these steps of Moscow, all this, which in connection with some Western, mostly European politicians. We see the statements by President Macron, who says that we have the safe the space and so on and so forth. The peaceful plans suggested by Italian leadership, the attitude of German, especially German state leadership, it's a different question. I would call it a total shame. We'll discuss it a little bit later. So the future developments, not only on the battlefront, but also on the political international front, will be very difficult, and we will have to prepare ourselves for quite a tough period. So I'll stop here. And
so yeah, talking about this 100 days of the this full-scale war, I would say that Russia, of course, they had the strategic catastrophical situation with from the first day, because if we now back to 24th of February, of course, Putin didn't expect any war at all. He expected kind of Czechoslovakia 68 operation with good mood, with very nice situation in Kyiv, with flowers on the armor of the Russian tanks, and no problems on the battlefield. Now, if you look at the 100 days of these activities of Russian forces, of course, they had problems from the first hours, and still have these problems after they even tried to concentrate only on Donbass. And the problem is that I cannot see now the really solutions for them. They they try to find the solutions. And Putin yesterday on the interview from this bunker told that he will attack new targets, but it's not a solution. It's only a threat. It's only try to make a fear on West and Ukraine. But of course, definitely for his team, his elites, it's not a solution. I'm sure that the pressure around Putin is growing up, and I would say dramatically. And a lot of facts that some representative of elites of different groups trying to think about their future, and they don't have any future at all. Talking about the situation on some directions, for example, situation in Severodonetsk started to be even more dramatically than before for Russians, because after surprisingly successful counterattack of Ukrainian forces, they don't have any plan now. Okay, now they could destroy all of Severodonetsk again with artillery and aviation, and Ukrainian forces get back from the city. After this, Ukrainian forces could get the same maneuver and get this city again. So for Russians, it will be a long story without any good end and good result on it. And the main point here that Severodonetsk for Russians is not tactical target, it's a political target, because Putin point that it should be Russian Donbass, or for example LNR, so-called LNR, till the first of all before 9th of May. Now it's the 12th of June, which is Russia Day, and maybe next term kind of end of the July. But it's impossible to prolong for next months. And I think that very important that President Zelensky yesterday visited all of this point we talked today, because it shows that Ukrainian forces is ready to prepare new surprises for Russians. I'm sure that Putin, when he made this so-called interview, it's impossible to say that when and where it was recorded, but for him was not very good news that Zelensky visited all of this point. He just could only dream, and I think that it was very important from psychological point of view, and especially on the background that Russian general was killed very close to this area where Zelensky visited personally. And this general killing case very interesting, because as I understood, the units they didn't want to try to attack again on this direction, and general arrived personally to this area to press on battalion commanders to go forward to attack Ukrainian forces. They denied, and general and the Russian general decided to be a leader on this battlefield, and he was just killed. And I think that on this direction it will be even worse situation for Russian forces regarding moral and psychological situation. What is if you're talking about the 100 days, I would say let's talk about the Western positions. Actually, European oligarchs didn't prepare for such a developments, and they didn't expect that Ukrainian forces will be successful so much, I would say, and they decided to press on their politicians like Scholz or Macron, try to stop it, because they understood that if Ukraine wins or Ukraine will defeat Russians, the total economical model for modern Europe will be destroyed. And this is not a joke. This is not a funny things, but that Europeans, especially in Germany, they built the system for last 40 and maybe 50 years, and now it's everything is destroyed because of the change of energy model. The German economy was built in some cases, like for based on Russian energy, Russian gas and oil, and now it will be a new energy from Qatar or United States, and of course the prices will be absolutely different. Prices will be like in market 3, 4, 6 times to maybe 10 times higher than in Russia, from Russia, and it means that they should rebuild everything. They should rebuild the economical system, and the very important thing that the current oligarchs, the German oligarchs, or especially German oligarchs, which were built their business on Russian gas, they won't participate in this new game. It will be new oligarchs. It means that new political parties, new political systems, political alliance will participate in next elections, and this is very bad signal for Scholz, Macron, and other European politicians. This is the basic factor which is ruling now European situation. And when we accuse Scholz that he is very very slow in these decisions, I think for Ukraine now, maybe it's smarter to do not press on Germany, because it's impossible for Scholz to be to be faster in this situation, because he under the huge pressure on these oligarchs, and he's trying to be more effective in communication with his sponsors. It's true. It's real life. So I think for Ukraine it could be better and smarter to do not press on Germany with weapon, but try to make maybe another side that Germany could help to Ukraine with financial instruments to give some support for Ukrainian economy, instead of giving some old tanks, because several old tanks from Germany won't decide anything on the battlefield, but several billions of euro sending from Germany to Ukraine will help Ukraine definitely, because economical situation creates it's even maybe 50, maybe even more % of our success in middle term or maybe strategic picture. So I would say that after 100 days of our battle, we should maybe try to define our strategy toward different countries. United States, of course, our main supporter with military and actually with economical support, but the United States is a main partner, main ally. UK, Poland, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Czech Republic, Slovakia, but Germany, for example, could help us not military but economically, and maybe we could redefine it, trying to reform our model of connection and communication with different countries. I think that it will be a smarter approach than just try to troll Scholz and trying to make him give us tanks. Germany physically doesn't have a proper weapon for us. Physically doesn't have. And if we're talking about this air defense system, IRIS-T-SL, which is absolutely great system, but we should understand it never been in armed forces. It never been in the German armed forces. Never been in foreign armed forces. It's only several systems for exhibitions. It's several systems for foreign contracts, future foreign contracts. If we sign contracts now with Germany about this IRIS-T-SL system, it means that several months at least we will need to get this system, and maybe even more, because it's impossible to say how effective the system on the battlefield, because the system is very new. It's never been participating in a real war, in real armed forces activities, and I'm not sure that it's a proper decision. NASAMS, for example, which is very similar on the concept to IRIS-T, I think will be more effective. And again, after yesterday news missile strikes against Kyiv, I think it will be again Ukraine should start press on our partners, give us air defense and missile defense, because MLRS, HIMARS, it's absolutely important.
Have you noticed that for some period there have been no claim from Ukrainian side about it, about the air defense? Everyone is talking about this long range artillery, about these HIMARS and so on, but no claims. But so
I don't know. I heard that
it's very interesting.
Yeah, I heard that.
It's also would like to mention in the context of the yesterday's shelling on Kyiv. At the same time, Russians, they attacked some storages in Mykhailo region. This is the storages for corn or whatever, this is agricultural storages. And we can connect this airstrikes because this plant in Kyiv, the Verzevich, was attacked by Russian missiles, by 4 of them. So we can say that it was a very important target for Russians, non-military target. And this target, this plant, the trains, they are repaired there. This means that they can export the Ukrainian corn. So in such a way, they are just destroying the Ukrainian infrastructure, that agriculture infrastructure that is included in exporting Ukrainian goods. In such a way, Putin is provoking the food crisis. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to be honest, I personally thought that because we don't have any discussions on air defense, it means that air defense already in our armed forces. At least I hope so. But yeah, because if we have no discussions, if we have no requests,
it's a strange silent situation actually.
I heard some I heard some opinions that traditionally, the traditionally Western doctrine of air defense compared to Soviet doctrine of air defense focused more on aviation, not on the air defense system. And this is a problem because our Western partners, they don't have enough air defense like missile systems. It's true. They had a huge problem. I remember the situation in 2008, 2010 when Obama administration tried to create a NATO missile defense system, like connected all of systems together, and they found that actually a lot of European countries, they just don't have anything. They have very small number of the air defense system and very short range. And if you compare situation in Poland, for example, Czech Republic,
and Poland is considered to be let's say the strongest army.
Yeah, and if you look at the
Eastern flank, didn't have its own air defense.
If you look at the Poland capabilities in air defense, it's absolutely zero. They of course, it's some kind of Polish specialities in internal procedure, because I remember that in 2010 they exactly started the discussions and tenders on buying and developing air defense system instead of Soviet system. The problem for Poland that they didn't support Soviet systems. They told that, okay, we'll get rid of everything and trying to build own domestic system together with our Western partners. The mistake was they tried to connect Polish radars and some, the parts of Polish defense industry. It's very similar how Ukrainian try to make a domestication together with Germans or Americans. And of course, for Patriots, for example, it's impossible to put some Polish radars inside of the system because it's absolutely different system. They need to redesign it, and it means several years and several billions of dollars. That's why since 2010, they had only discussions. And even now, when they finally decided to buy Patriots, they still don't have this. They still only American Patriots from armed forces, United States armed forces, sent to Polish territory to defend missile defense systems, Aegis, which they deployed a couple years ago. The same in Romania. They get rid of Soviet systems but have only American Patriots on their soil. The same in Czech Republic. They have only short range, and together, because they told that they lease I think 16th of or 14th of Gripens, it's enough for air defense. But if we compare Russian missile resources and for example air defense and aviation, it's impossible to fight with aviation so against such a quantity of numbers of missiles.
Yeah, the problem was that during the last 30 years, the Europeans didn't develop their armed forces. Yes, and bizarrely, that at the moment they don't have the possibilities.
By the way, very interesting situation. Maybe you remember this project MADS. It's United States, Italy, Germany try to develop it. It's a great system. It's absolutely sophisticated. It's a next generation compared to Patriot, and they need only $2 billion to finish it. And it was some competition between Patriots and new generation Patriots and MADS, and finally Patriot won. I don't know, because of political reasons, but the problem is that if MADS won like 10 years ago, means that Italy, at least Italy and Germany, I think UK as well, already had a lot of MADS systems. And very interesting that these Iris-T missiles could be used in these MADS, because Germany especially developed these missiles, Iris-T, especially for this German version of this MADS. So yeah, it's catastrophic situation for air defense and missile defense for Western countries, and that's why Ukraine now we have a problem, because we just don't have any sources to get faster, for example, new Patriots and new Iris-T, new NASAMS, because our Western partners only have some systems in their armed forces, and they cannot send us like dozens of them, maybe a couple of them. Of course, it will be even a couple of them very important on our situation, but of course it's not enough. This is a problem because MiG-29 in even F-16 is good solution, but not for hundreds of missiles which Russia still has.
Okay, guys, thank you for your insights, and I think we shall logically move to our last issue. It's about arms deliveries to Ukraine. We have already discussed some points, but the main development, of course, through the last weeks is a package of sophisticated systems. I mean delivery of HIMARS, multiple rocket launchers, which Ukrainian military has long wanted. And also there was an information that Britain may provide Ukrainians with M270 MLRS systems as well. So according to many experts, these developments may make a big shift on a battlefield, and we are witnessing that Russians are in panic of that, and this is about their attempts to undermine supplies of MLRS systems, and we are witnessing activization of Russian diplomacy on that track, but all that attempts has failed. At the same time, Russians are continuing their missile attacks in attempts to portray their success on destroying arms supplies, Western armors, and I think that these attacks on a Darnica railcar repair plant was a part of this informational campaign. And in connection with Putin's interview that was broadcasted yesterday, and statements that were made during last days by Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, according to which Russians are adopting a new unspecified tasks to accelerate the process of the war. And a similar statement was made by the head of the Chechen Republic, Kadyrov. So we are witnessing that the delivery of HIMARS and M270 MLRS systems is a big challenge for Russians, and they maintain their informational campaign to undermine these deliveries. But I think that they will achieve no success in that. And the main point is that on June 15, there will be another Rammstein format summit. And I think that there will be discussed the main aspects of deliveries of these systems to Ukraine. And that may prevent to successful counterattacks of Ukrainian armed forces. But still, we have to count that to implement these systems on the battlefield, it will take several months for Ukraine to be capable to use them in connection with different dimensions of warfare. But still, what is worth noting that the West, especially administration of the United States, is reluctant to provide Ukraine with MG 140 Army tactical missile systems, which is surface-to-surface missile, which has a range of up to more than 300 kilometers. And these systems could allow Ukraine to provide attacks on Russian territory, which is a red line for West. And there were many messages on that, and many statements of American officials as well as European ones. But still, I think that even system which will allow us to hit Russian forces and Russian munitions in depth of 70 kilometers is quite enough to achieve successes on the battlefields during the upcoming campaigns. So, guys, what do you think about that?
My opinion that, you know, when we're talking about these missiles on 300 kilometers, we should understand it's pretty expensive system. So when we're talking about the concrete money, because when we're talking about the packages of the support to help, it should be counting money. And if we count in money, for now, for current situation, at least for summer, for this summer, I think it's better to have several hundreds of missiles for MLRS, HIMARS, or or 270, 100 of shorter range missiles rather than 2 or 3 or 10 missiles with 300 kilometers. These 300 kilometer missiles, it's a very specific weapon. I think that it will be useful, very useful when we're talking about the occupation of Crimea, because destroying Black Sea fleet as ships will be done, of course, by anti-ship missiles like Neptune, Harpoon, but destroying land infrastructure by Black Sea fleet and another occupying forces in Crimea, land infrastructure, will be done by these 300 kilometer missiles. So that time, in that time, during the occupation of Crimea, will be very useful. Now, I think it's enough to have hundreds of missiles with range of 70, 100 kilometers. I think it's enough with our depth of the battlefield. It's absolutely great distance. And if we're talking about the comparison between prices and effectiveness, I think it will be absolutely optimum for Ukrainian forces now. And my forecast for next developments, I think that Russia will try definitely to occupy all of Lugansk Oblast and trying to have a development on Donetsk Oblast to declare political results of this operation, at least minimum political achievements, political results. I think that Ukrainian forces will try to counterattack even now, because I'm sure that Zelensky arrived to frontline not just to show his power and his brave, but I think to see what is the situation and if Ukrainian forces are ready to develop their capabilities to counterattack. So I think we could be ready that Ukrainian forces will attack Russians on Kherson, Kharkiv, and of course some directions on Donbas, to have to get initiative, to get initiative to build a new agenda of this situation. I think it will be the main characteristic, main specification on next developments, at least for summer months. What will be next, we'll see, of course, on depends on the battlefield and concrete developments on the battlefield.
Well, the situation with HIMARS and M270 systems is quite simple. We need them right now in big quantities. That's it. As we know, it was announced we will have how many eight launchers, right, of the HIMARS system. So it's not very. I'm not sure that this amount is enough to make real shift on the battlefield. So we need more such systems and more rockets for them. And since we have these systems and the rockets for them in the needed amounts, then I think that Ukrainian army will have the possibility to make a shift and not to make some counter attacks, but real counteroffensive operations on the battlefield that will seriously change the situation on the battlefield. And as for further developments, fully agree with Mykhailo that and I also mentioned about it. The Russian plans will be to capture the Luhansk Oblast and then to capture the Donetsk Oblast, and then declare that the special operation achieved its goals. But at the same time, the Russians will make pressure, will blackmail the West to push on Kiev to make negotiations with Ukrainians. And this blackmail will be also followed by this blackmail with the food crisis. So, and our task of our diplomacy is not to accept this, let's say, propositions, like such propositions I have seen from Macron or from Scholz or this Italian plan, and to stand on our positions. That there have to be a pressure on Putin, but not on Kiev, to deblocate Ukrainian ports and to make the possibility for our ships to export our corn and so on. And on the battlefield, we see that the Russian army is losing its potential to advance. And it's very, very important for us not to give them the possibility to have some period for rest, to regroup, and to make gather new forces to make new advances. So I think I fully agree with Mykhailo that we have to have to take the initiative and to plan out our counteroffensive. Now we see the counteroffensive attacks, but these counter attacks, they make like in the Kherson region, they make the bridgeheads for further counteroffensive, not only attacks, but a very counteroffensive operations. So Yeah, but at the same time, we must admit that we heavily depend on the Western supplies, and our diplomacy and our Ministry of Defense have to be very active in working with our partners, especially with the United States, to ask them to send send us more weapons and to send them in time.
Okay, guys, I think that for today our agenda is running out of steam, and I thank for everybody, for you and for our listeners, and keep following us to be aware about the developments on the battlefield and all around the Russo-Ukrainian war.